Between 1971 and 1979, there was a government in Uganda led by Field Marshal General Salongo Haji Idi Amin Dada, who at one point woke up and thought that all Ugandans of an Asian background had to leave the country Uganda. It happened, and we all know about, we have read about or heard about also, those who were here saw and witnessed the expulsion of people with Asian background out of Uganda. A lot happened. Currently we see government trying to call them back, to welcome them back. Others are reclaiming what was their own and things like that. But what exactly happened to some of these people and their families internally when this expulsion happened? The government of Uganda, through the Ugandan High Commission in the UK, has an arrangement of mobilizing these people, bring them back home, allow them to come back and invest here and things like that. And recently they held a convention in Kampala, the first of its kind. So we are taking an opportunity to talk to one of them who left Uganda 52 years ago. Yes, and he returned just this very month after 52 years. We want to get to hear his story, how they were thrown out of Uganda, where did they go, how did they walk out, and the choice of where they went, and what was life like, and the current situation of who they became after whatever happened. His name, he's a retired medical doctor in the UK. His name is Dr. Manoj Joshi, MBE DL. He will tell us what MBE means and DL. Doctor, you're most welcome to the show.
Good morning, Michael. Many thanks for your courtesy of inviting me to appear on your very fabulous show, and you are a great interviewer.
You're most welcome. I'm so humbled.
Yes, you're fabulous. So,
what is MBE?
MBE is the most excellent order of the British Empire, which is a national honor awarded by the monarch at the time, and I was awarded this honor by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in her last year of reign for services to COVID, provision of COVID services.
Okay, that's how you were honored.
Yes.
So, you were born in Uganda. When was that and where? Let's start from there.
I was born in the most wonderful town, Jinja, which is now a city, the source of the mighty Lake Victoria and the longest river, Nile, in the world. So you cannot be born to any better place in the world than Jinja.
Yes.
And I was born in 10th of March 1952.
Okay.
My origins were from India. I was a third generation to be in Jinja, Uganda. My grandfather came from India, from a place called Ranawau in Gujarat, via Porbandar and Mombasa, and initially settled in Iganga. In 1910 he started his business, and he was agent for Singer sewing machines in the Busoga district.
Okay.
And we had an adjoining fabric business which sold lots of clothes, because at the time there was nothing available ready-made, so everything has to be made. So we employed about 40 people to measure, to sew curtains, bed sheets, pillows, clothes, shirts, ties.
In your grandfather's shop?
In my grandfather's shop.
Okay.
So that's our history and background of arriving and staying from 1910 till 1972.
So your family settled in Iganga, but you were born in Jinja?
Yes, after initially starting in Iganga, the business expanded, and as Jinja was a town growing, that is where the business was. So my grandfather located to Jinja because that is where the opportunities were there.
Did you go to school in Jinja? And which school?
Initially, my first school was kindergarten, which was on Naranbai Road.
Okay.
Then I went to a primary school, a junior primary school called Ramgaria Sikh Primary School, which was on Kampala Road. and then I went to the junior primary school called Naranbai Road Primary School.
Yes.
And then I went to Jinja Senior Secondary School.
Jinja SS.
Yes, Jinja SS. That was
You
my
must
school.
be having thousands of OBs and OGs watching you. Uh-huh.
I hope they are.
Definitely they are there. So, by the time this expulsion came, how far had you gone with your education?
I had just qualified as a pharmacist, and then went for further studies abroad. But before that, the expulsion happened, so my education was cut short, and we had to remove directly from Uganda to go UK
Where did you train pharmacy?
in Makerere.
Okay. You are an alumni of Makerere University.
Yes.
When did this news come out, and where did it find you as a person, as a family in general, that from such and such a date we don't want to see such and such people in Uganda? When did it come out, and where did it find you?
The announcement was made in August 1972, and everybody was stunned and everybody was shocked as to, is this real? Is this going to happen? And there was panic amongst all Asian people or people who are not of African descent. And so panic started, and everybody started going to British High Commission to get their documentations ready, and started to move out. People started selling businesses which they were not able to sell. So generally there was just panic to get out.
Give us a picture of your family. How did this situation treat you as a family?
Well, we were all shocked because we didn't have all the documents of Ugandan citizenships, and we just had to collect our items and goods and precious things, but we were only allowed to carry 20 kilos. So there was nothing to take really apart from ourselves.
So you were not allowed to carry anything? Only 20 kilograms of what?
Yes.
Clothes?
Anything of not value, because everything was confiscated of value. There was nothing there to take.
Okay. So personally, were you at school? Were you already at work? Where were you? And
I was actually abroad at that time in India, and I had to get out of India to get to the UK. My rest of my family was here, and they had to get out.
you were barred from carrying anything.
Yes.
How easy was it to travel? How did people travel to leave Uganda?
Well, we all had to either go by car. There was only one way of travel, which was to go by car
To where?
to Entebbe Airport.
Okay.
There was no other way to go out. Everybody flew out from Entebbe.
There are stories that we were told of people who walked to Kenya.
Yes, that's all by road or rail or by bus. There's no other way of going. So people were walking from different places, because Jinja was not the only place. People living all over Uganda. So they had to get out from the nearest place.
Okay. We also hear of people that are said to have committed suicide, others that threw themselves into the lake. Are all those stories true?
They are true. People were, it's very traumatic to talk about, but people were captured and taken and removed from their families. We've heard about all those terrible stories, and some of them have never been seen back.
What made UK the best choice to go to for you? Because if the historical descent or background was in India, why UK after the expulsion here?
Because the immigration or the movement was under British rule, and everybody traveled under British Empire passports or documentations. And in Uganda, it was a colony and protectorate, so all the systems were education system, the commercial system, the legal system were all based on the English system. And because majority of the people were going to Britain, because that is where the most government was responsible for getting them back to their country, which is UK.
One would think that because my descendancy is in India, if the government in Uganda says go away, definitely one's way to run to would be India.
It was, but because we had left, we were 3 generations here. There was not much links with India.
It wasn't easy to trace back.
Trace back would have been very difficult because my father was the only son, and because as I said, we were 3 generations in Uganda.
Yes.
Our
Your great grandparent, your great grandfather, your grandfather.
No, my father,
your father, and you
and me, and we had no links or I would say connection as strong as we had connection with the UK.
Okay.
So that is why UK was chosen, and the country was responsible for its citizens and subjects at that time to take care of them.
Had you had trained in the UK? You had gone for some studies in the UK?
No, I had gone to India on a visit, and then from there I went to England to continue my further.
Because I'm imagining now, here you are, expelled from Uganda as a family, now you get into a foreign land,
yes,
the United Kingdom.
Yes.
How was that kind of an experience?
Well, that experience was very warm and welcoming. It was very safe and secure, and people were wanting to help us, and my family were taken to army camps where they settled, they moved around until they could find a place where they could go and settle in a place that they wanted of their choosing, and we settled in a place called Derby.
Why an army place? Were you in thousands? Were
yes,
you so many
thousands.
for the government there to handle?
There were thousands of people going, and there were not ready places available like housing or employment or schooling. They had to be processed because everybody had to be processed, given their proper documents, their national insurance number, their employment number, their, and given them a place to be living before they could choose where to go and settle. So it wasn't just easy that you can just turn up. Imagine thousands of people turning up at an airport and nowhere to go. They had to have a system in place,
yes,
to welcome them and to process them and to make sure that they got all the information, where to live, where to find work, where to settle. It takes a lot of time and organization.
In your family, how many people left Uganda for UK during that expulsion? Who and who? Was it your father?
My father, my mother, 4 sisters, 1 brother, and myself. So there were, in total, there were 8 people.
Your grandfather had died already?
My grandfather had died.
Where did you bury him?
He was cremated in Jinja in 1957.
Okay. So you were 8 people that left.
Yes.
So how do you now settle? How do you get out of the camp as a family now to settle as an established family in the UK?
So we were taken, all of us were taken to different places to choose, to select to live and work, and my father chose to live in Derby, and we rented a house, and that's how we started our journey. Work was very essential to get back on the feet, and that's how we started. And my father became a supervisor in a textile factory because we was experienced in textiles. I had qualified as a pharmacist, so I started working in a manufacturing chemist, and that's how we started. My brothers and sisters were young, and my sister also started working in a bank, Barclays Bank, and that's how we started to rebuild our lives. And the rest started going to school, education.
So you also started a family as a person and your own family and walked out of your father's family?
No, I got married in 1979, but that was a time when my father died. So I was the eldest in the family, and I was responsible for my brothers and sisters. And so, in a sense, I became responsible for their education and their upbringing and their future. And that's what I concentrated on, and we became quite successful in that. They're all very well settled.
A family, I would say, was lucky. You were a trained pharmacist.
Yes.
You had the skill already.
Yes.
Your father was business, a textile
Businessman,
specialist,
yes.
a businessman, so you easily. How was life like for these other families? Were you hearing from them, those that left Uganda with you people?
I think most of the Asian community in Uganda were either in business or in professions,
Okay.
banking, insurance, accountancy, medicine, and they were all very qualified. Educationally also they were very good, so it was very easy for them, to cope and get on with work, and that's how we became, in fact, the Ugandan diaspora in UK is the best example of a refugee community becoming the most successful community in the United Kingdom and making a net contribution to the economy. In fact, I think they contribute 6% to the GDP in the UK.
What kind of information were you gathering about Uganda back home where you had left?
We were hearing that the civil conflict goes on.
Because the expulsion was in 1972.
Yes, from
Then
1972 onwards.
What kind of information were you receiving from Uganda?
We were receiving that the economy is failing, there is civil fight, there is warfare, there is community disturbances, and there were a lot of trouble in Uganda. And politically that was very well known.
Were you guys homesick? Is there any time when you were homesick, you felt like, I wish I would be back in Igang?
We were always homesick, and we were still homesick. I don't think anybody who's left Uganda cannot be homesick.
No, I'm imagining if you are thrown out in a bad way, you get to a foreign land where you end up successful and life goes a better direction. Do you still feel like I would be in Igang?
No, because we had no animosity or bad feeling about the country or the people.
Okay.
It was the way it was managed that was the issue, and we went through a bad phase. But I think the country is called the Pearl of Africa. It's not called the Pearl of Africa for nothing. And it's called the Pearl of Africa because of the people, the country, the beauty, the weather, the resources that it's got.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with the country. So we had no problem with the country, really.
Okay.
Nobody has any problem with the country. It's a system.
Within the Asian community, how were you treated by the news that it's 1979 and Idi Amin has been overthrown and his government?
Well, we were pleased in the sense that one phase had ended and maybe a new beginning was taking place where it will probably allow us, the country, to grow and prosper again under the new system. And that we all lived in hope that that would happen.
Were there initiatives by the government that came up after Idi Amin to welcome you back to Uganda as a community that had been thrown out of the country?
There was some, but it wasn't
as serious
and it wasn't as committed because there was still disunity in the country politically. And anybody who has been displaced, they would not like to come back to a place where it wasn't safe or secure or stability. Is a big matter, stability, especially for business.
Okay. After the overthrow of Idi Amin, the governments that came up, are there some of the people within the community that would fly back to check what is happening? Are there people that tried to return to Uganda immediately after the leave of Idi Amin?
Some may have tried, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't a united effort or a strong movement to come back to Uganda because still things were not stable, they were not safe. And that is what people were wanting, because if you are displaced and removed forcibly, the first thing people say, is it safe for us to return? And if we return, would we be able to go back to what we were doing and have our properties back and have our businesses back, and what were the terms and conditions? So those things were not very clear at the time.
There are big families known to have owned big businesses within Uganda, even at that time. Madvani, Meta, all those big household names. How were they treated? Where were they?
They were expelled as well. They all had to leave. Yes, everybody left. Some tried to stay, but everybody just left because it wasn't there. There was no safety for anybody. But when things changed, when the administrations changed, they were invited, or they were given the chance to come back, and some of them did come back and reclaim and started, but it still wasn't safe for everybody to return.
It took time to settle.
Yes.
Currently, we have some establishments like Association of the Indian Community, Indian Asian Community. There are associations that bring them together almost in every district and now at the national level. Was there anything like that at the time?
No.
Did you used to mobilize each other?
No, there was nothing. No. And because the Ugandan Asians who are in the UK also, they were widespread and displaced. So there was no, I would say, an organization or association. But later on, there was a Jinja Reunion, ex-Jinja Reunion Association formed, and other associations were formed.
And it came after the expulsion?
Many years after the expulsion.